Hello everyone and welcome to another video on Python programming. In this video we're going to learn about the topic called file handling. Now file handling is basically needed because most of the times when we're handling large and different types of data in Python or in general, we cannot store everything into a variable and we will have to use files. Now there are two types of files that we are going to deal with. They are binary and text files. So binary files are some of the files that most of the files that we commonly encounter, like document files, image files, video files, etc. Now all binary files are encoded in a particular format and they cannot be read by a normal text editor. And we would be needing certain specific softwares for specific files. Text files, on the other hand, do not have any specific encoding and they can be opened in the normal text editor itself. And they are like XML, CSS, HTML files, and so on. Now, there are four main operations that we can do in Python on files. They are open, read, write, and close. There are certain other operations as well, though, like rename, delete. So some of the most basic operation that we can do is obviously creating and opening a file. And the syntax is as you can see here, where we use the open command and we give a file name and we give a mode and we store that in a particular variable. Now a mode is basically telling Python how to handle this opening. So we can have a read-only mode which is done by this letter R, a write-only mode which is done by letter W, and there are a bunch of other modes such as read or write mode which is done by R+, and we are going to see them as we encounter them. Now it's important to note that what I just mentioned is for text files. If we are going to do for binary files, we're going to do this file handling, then we would be using the letter B in front of whatever we were using in the case of text files. So if we were doing a read-only mode for opening a binary file, we would be using RB. And if we were doing read and write mode, read or write only mode, for a binary file, we would be using RB+. So basically just adding the B in the case of binary files. Let's look at a basic example. When we want to open a particular file, we are going to open, like in this example, I'm going to open some file called filehandling.txt in a read and write mode, read or write mode, and I'm going to store it in FO. So this is as simple as it gets. Similarly, if I wanted to do it for a binary file, since I'm using a binary file, I will use the letter B as well in the mode. And that's how you do it here. Now let's look at different ways in which we can read from a file. And there are three commands that we can use. We can use the read command followed by an optional number of characters. We can use the read line command followed by an optional number of characters, and the read lines command. So this optional number of characters is denoted by N over here, and basically it's telling us how many characters we want to print. So let's look at a simple example of where I'm going to print something called, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to do a print on top of this. So I've opened it and I've stored it in my file, and then I'm going to do a method or a function called read, and I'm going to say, like in this example, just read the whole thing. So as you can see, my file that I have opened has all of these lines. This is like the whole file basically. But now what if I wanted to open only the first 5 characters of this file, which is basically this? Well, in that case, let's open this once again. Now let's do the same read command, except we will give the character number, which is 5. As you can see, it's only printed 5. Now let's do a print read command and try to read the whole thing again. And you will notice something very interesting. Now when I do the read command, you can see it's kind of picked up from where we left off from our previous command. And that is the nature of how Python handles files. So if I wanted to again take the cursor back in such an example, I will have to open this again. And then I use this read command once again to get back to where I started from, as you can see here. Now another command that we can use is the read line command. So let's once again open this over here, and now we're going to use the read line command over here. So what read line command is going to do is each time we use this command, it's going to go one by one and read each particular line from this file. So in first case, it will take artificial intelligence, then data science, big data, and so on. So as you can see, if I execute this, it first takes artificial intelligence. Now if I did this command again, it will say data science. Next time if I do it, it should say big data, as you can see here. Okay, so this is the read line command. Now within the read line command also we can enter characters, and that will tell us basically that we want these number of characters from the next line. So if I want the first 6 characters of the next line, I will say 6, I will enter 6 here, and it will give me the first 6 characters of this particular line, which is the next line that is to come, as you can see here. Now another way in which we can print whatever is there in our file line by line is by using a for loop. So again, I'm going to open this file. I'm going to store it here. Now I'm going to use a for loop saying that, well, for line in my file. And what this does is basically at each iteration, it's going to take each line and store it in this variable that we enter over here, which is called line itself. And we're going to print that. At the end of the loop, what we'll have is all of the lines have been printed one by one. And another thing that we can do right now is, say we want to read a particular line. Say I wanted you to read the fifth line of my file. I can use this technique where I just say, okay, I'm going to store 5 in this variable called line number, and I have this another variable called current line, which I'm going to initialize with 1. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same loop where I'm going to say for line in my line, but I'm going to add a condition saying that only if current line, when it's equal to line number, am I going to print the line. And then I'm going to break out of this whole thing. And at the end of each loop, I'm going to say current line is going to be incremented by 1 until basically these two variables are equal. So when I do this, I get my result, which is machine learning, which is the fifth line of whatever file I had. Now we're going to move on to the topic of image file handling. So we saw how we handled and we saw certain operations around text files. And text files are obviously something that we're going to use a lot. But we are also going to be using files such as images a lot. And let's look at certain examples and certain use cases around image file handling. So my first step is going to be importing a bunch of modules and packages. Now the details of these modules and these packages are not important as of right now because they will be covered in a future video. But just keep a note of some of these packages such as let's say NumPy and the image package. So once I've done this, let's move on to my example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to store certain file locations in two variables. So it's basically two strings. I've attached the this prefix R to say that this is a read-only sort of a prefix. So the next topic that we're going to be handling is image file handling. Now we have already seen many examples pertaining to text files. So text files are obviously something that we're going to be using a lot. But image file handling is something very important as well. And we're going to see certain operations that we can do around image file handling. So starting off, I'm going to import a bunch of packages and modules. What these packages exactly are and what these modules exactly are right now not that important to you right now, but it's something that will be covered in a future or in future videos. It's important to just keep note of what these are, such as NumPy and image. So once I've done that, what I'm going to store is I'm going to store two particular file locations in two variables, location 1 and location 2. And I've prefixed them with R just to say that these are raw strings. So once I've done that, I'm going to use the image from the image package. I'm going to say open, and I'm going to say open from this particular location and this particular location. And I'm going to store these images in IM1 and IM2 over here. Very similar to a normal text file opening. Now, once we've done this, we can access certain properties of this image using, say, format, which tells us the format of the file. It identifies the source of an image. And if the image is not read from a file, it is set to none. We can also see the size of the file using the size attribute, and we can see the mode, which basically defines the number and names of the bands in the image and also contains the pixel type and depth. Certain common modes are like L for luminescence, RGB for true color images, and CMYK for pre-press images. So let's look at them. So when I access this, you can see my first file is of JPEG of this size and an RGB format image. And my second image is another JPEG, slightly bigger image, and again RGB. Now we can also, of course, display these images, and to do that, we can use the PLT. Again, PLT is supposed to stand for matplotlib.pyplot. It's a particular package that again you don't need to know the details of right now, but this is how we would do this. So I'm going to use a bunch of commands and methods such as figure and subplot and then IMShow. So once I have done this, as you can see, both of my images, with this being IM1, this being IM2, have been produced on the screen, as you can see. I can also use display, this display function followed by the name of the file, and this will simply display my image, as you can see here. Now I can obviously save a particular image using the save function, which is as simple as just doing this. So I'm going to save the image as im_save.jpg over here. Now if I wanted to crop an image, I can do that as well. So I stored the dimensions that I want cropped in the form of a tuple, as you can see here, and I'm going to pass that tuple to the crop function, and I'm going to apply that on top of im1, and I'm going to store that to region. Once I've done that, as you can see, so basically what I've done is I've cropped this image based on whatever I've passed here, and I've stored it into region. And now if I wanted to see what was actually in that crop, I can just do the imShow function, and I'm going to pass the particular cropped image, which is denoted by region, as you can see here. And you can see my cropped image is basically a left portion of this whole image has been cropped out, and I have produced it over here. Now I can also use the copy function. It's a simple basically copy. You use the copy function, and it copies an image onto another variable that you have assigned. And when I use the imShow function, I'm going to show you the copied image, which is basically the same. Now we can do the transpose operation as well. So let's see let's see what we have done here. So in this transpose operation, so in this basically I've done a bunch of operations, such as rotating by 90 degrees, rotating by 180, rotating by 270. And finally, once I've done with all of these multiple operations, I'm going to show you the final output, which is basically a certain transposed image like this, which is basically the result of whatever I have done before this. So this is it for this video on file handling. I have shown you two slightly more comprehensive examples on text files and even certain examples on image files. However, we can use file handling in different libraries pertaining to file handling for audio files and even for stuff like PDF files. And this is just only the beginning, and I'm sure you will encounter a lot of different use cases, different examples as you continue learning Python programming. As always, if you enjoyed this video and you learned from this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and I hope to see you in the next video.